In Italy, football seems to exist in two parallel worlds. One is full of passion and emotion, where stadiums erupt in the final seconds of injury time, where fans roar in wild ecstasy from the stands. But alongside that world lies another, quiet, murky, and tangled in shadows, where shady transactions, discreet gambling habits, and underground schemes snake through locker rooms, even when no matches are being fixed. It all started with a €22,000 electronic invoice for a Rolex watch that was never delivered. But this wasn't a simple case of tax evasion, it was a method of laundering dirty money sourced from illegal gambling. The investigation quickly widened when one name kept appearing in the financial records of more than a dozen Serie A players. Elium, a jewelry store in Milan. Under the guise of luxury purchases, money was transferred through multiple accounts before ultimately landing in unlicensed online casinos. While there's been no evidence of match fixing, what's come to light is a highly sophisticated underground credit network. Players secretly borrowed money, lost bets, and then bought expensive watches from Elium to wash their debts. The more they lost, the deeper they went. The more invoices were created. It became a vicious cycle. So repetitive it nearly turned into a second profession alongside football. Everything traces back to that €22,000 payment recorded under a Serie A player's name and sent to Elium in Milan. From there, the investigation cracked open a covert financial system that had operated for 3 years, intertwining football, debt, and digital casinos. This is a new fracture line in Serie A. Not match fixing, but organized illegal gambling, according to investigative reports from La Repubblica, Corriere della Sera, and Gazzetta dello Sport. The case was cracked open thanks to data extracted from two players who admitted to gambling during the previous season, Sandro Tonali and Nicolo Fagioli. By analyzing their phone data, authorities identified a list of 13 other players, many of whom are still active in Serie A or other top European leagues, including Weston McKennie, Mattia Perin, Alexandro Florenzi, Nicolo Zaniolo, Leandro Paredes, and Andre Frank Zambalanguiza. If the 2023 scandal was the first shockwave, the 2025 saga is the sequel, bigger, more complex, and deeper in scale. Unlike previous cases, many of the players didn't bet on football matches. They were lured into the world of online casino games. The problem? The platforms they used were unlicensed in Italy and run by an underground network with a sophisticated financial infrastructure. Two key figures sit at the heart of the operation, Tommaso the Jomo and Patrick Frizera, the men behind a string of illegal gambling sites. But what makes the investigation even more tangled is the way money was cleaned. Elium Group, the Milan jewelry store, became the hub for debt laundering. Players wired money under the pretense of buying luxury watches, received legitimate invoices with transaction codes, but the Rolexes were never delivered. It was all a front to conceal the flow of money into illegal gambling platforms. As the investigation expanded, more than €1,500,000, 0 cents, was discovered scattered across accounts linked to the store. This wasn't about personal vice anymore. It was a full-blown underground credit network. Players were loaned money, lost at gambling, and returned to shop again to legitimize the funds. The more debt, the more invoices, the easier it became to stay under the radar. Few would have imagined that names like Tonali and Fagioli, once seen in tears on national TV, would now be central figures in expanding this underground gambling network. According to documents from the Milan prosecutor's office, early suspicions have now been confirmed. This is all real. The players involved weren't just users, they were key links, actively recruiting others into the system. A quiet hierarchy was in play. Those already in debt would bring in new members in exchange for their own debts being wiped. Young, inexperienced, and gullible players became prime targets. What's even more troubling is how this behavior gradually became normal within the football environment. During a national team camp, Tonali once casually remarked, "Who doesn't gamble?" A comment that seemed harmless, but now reveals an underground culture that is corroding the ethics and financial stability of professional teams. Italy's Football Federation is under unprecedented pressure. The issue goes far beyond legal ramifications. It's a full-scale crisis in financial management, psychological support, and player awareness, from academy prospects to the biggest stars. At the heart of this scandal are Sandro, Tonali, and Nicolo. They're no longer just victims of temptation, they're brokers, connectors, recruiters, and key operators channeling money into illegal gambling platforms. According to the released testimonies, the two players weren't just gambling, they were deeply embedded in the system. Not only were they placing bets, but they also acted as intermediaries, drawing in teammates and friends to unlicensed platforms. It's a multi-layered network where older debtors could escape their dues by pulling new people in. The alarming part isn't the number of people involved, but how normalized the behavior has become. Tonali and Fagioli even admitted that betting was routine, just something to kill time at the hotel while on team duty. And it's this "everyone does it" mindset that's fostered an underground culture slipping completely out of football's regulatory grasp. The image of Tonali at a casino in 2023 had already caused a stir, but the 2025 shock runs even deeper, as data from his personal devices continued to expand the list of people implicated. The structure of this betting ring mirrors the classic mechanics of financial crime. The veterans survive by roping in the newcomers, and those fresh faces, the rising stars desperate for recognition, are the easiest prey. The Italian Football Federation is considering reopening the investigation from a sporting disciplinary angle. But more fundamentally, the case has exposed a major gap in how the Italian football system educates and supports young players. Despite once being lauded for its academies, Italian football has severely failed to protect its players from financial traps, psychological fragility, and perhaps most critically, a moral compass once they step off the pitch. This is a league that used to pride itself on rich traditions. Now it's under threat from dark money and a shadowy betting web. And without serious consequences, what's at stake isn't just reputation, it's the trust of an entire generation of fans. The year 2025 is shaping up to be a true earthquake in Serie A. The more the denials roll in, the deeper the public's suspicion grows. Di Maria, Paredes, McKennie. All have denied any involvement, but with each denial comes another question. Who's telling the truth and who's hiding something? Serie A already spent nearly a decade rebuilding its image after previous scandals. Now, everything that's been rebuilt, the youth projects, the media campaigns, the return of star players, is being put at risk by a few late-night clicks on betting apps. The scariest part isn't the scandal itself, but the shift in how fans perceive the game. A shot off the post is no longer just bad luck. It becomes a source of suspicion. A yellow card in the 89th minute? It could set the entire betting world ablaze. And in that moment, football stops being about emotion and starts being manipulated. A scandal not extinguished early becomes a lingering fracture that never fully heals. And with what's happening in Serie A right now, all signs point to this one dragging on, slow burning and painful. The inconsistency in handling past incidents has left fans more skeptical than ever about what they're being told. Every time a new name is added to the investigation list, the same question echoes. Has he fixed a match in some corner of the pitch? Because the accused aren't unknowns. They're idols of millions. And that's why the trust is so fragile, so breakable. The Italian Football Federation once declared it would proactively launch internal investigations from a disciplinary standpoint regardless of criminal outcomes. But can those internal probes truly restore faith? Or will they simply be old patches on a jersey that's been torn for far too long? This scandal is being dug into so deeply in part because it comes at a time when Serie A is desperately trying to rebuild its image after years of decline. The league has worked hard bringing back big-name players, improving youth development, stabilizing finances, even upgrading its media presence. And yet all of it is being overshadowed by the image of Sandro Tonali, a recent Carabao Cup winner in England now under investigation for money laundering, or Weston McKennie, chasing the Scudetto with Juventus but now in the headlines in the US for alleged gambling links. Serie A was shaken to its core by the 2006 Calciopoli scandal and took nearly a decade to recover. But now, in 2025, a new storm is brewing, one that could wipe out years of hard-earned progress with just a few lines in an investigation report. If this entire situation is seen as a matter of individual misjudgment, perhaps the fans can find room to forgive. But if it's exposed as part of an underground culture, where shady links and secretive betting habits spread through locker rooms, then we're looking at a far deeper crisis. When a shot that hits the post in this week's Serie A fixture no longer feels like a simple case of misfortune, but makes people wonder, was there an over-under bet on that? Then the trust has already been breached. The 2025 betting scandal isn't just a criminal case, it's a wake-up call for the entire system. It highlights cracks in oversight, failures in education, a toxic culture behind the scenes, and a disturbingly lenient attitude toward wrongdoing. This isn't the first time Serie A has found itself in crisis, but the loss this time isn't about stripped titles or suspended players. The real damage is this. From now on, every fan who turns on the TV to watch a match will have to ask themselves, is that shot really clean?